the waters, our enemy's lesson after the flood, and his hidden society. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another part of our series, which I'm going to call something like Understanding the Plans and Strategies of Our Opponent. I believe we're in part 7. I can't remember. They'll be numbered properly on the videos themselves, and the whole series will be in a playlist in order in the description box below. Now, we've talked about a lot, and now I want to talk about the water. The water, because one thing that I believe the enemy, our opponent, learned after the floods of Noah was that whatever could be seen by us as people in terms of anything supernatural could eventually lead us back to Christ. And therefore, if he was really going to get us to be these good factory workers for the kingdom of darkness, if he was really going to be able to further his plans and strategies of destroying us, he would have to do something to hide what he is doing, right? Now, first things first, obviously, was to make sure to remove the history of a lot of things so that we don't even believe in the spiritual things, and the spiritual things seem to be odd or seem to not be true. And that was stage one. That one is very true, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the people in the world today, at least especially in the West, in other countries, I must say, in other countries, it's very normal. You Western folks, your governments and peoples, I just hate to tell you, but I don't hate to tell you, I love to tell you. They're hiding this stuff from you on purpose. And a lot of other countries in the world, it's very normal, the spiritual stuff. Like, very, very normal. But anyway, because what they need you to do is they need you to just become the workforce and not know anything more. And just go to work and do what you need to do. Anyways, so what I believe he realized was, oh, okay, if they know about the things of the spirit, because again, he's a scientist, he's just trying things out. He's just testing things out. He doesn't know how things are going to go, and he's learning along the way, because he's not God, he's not all-knowing, right? Or all-seeing. So I believe he thought, okay, I need to hide everything. So first of all, we hide the history, and we decide to call everything that is supernatural, myth, legend, fable, make-believe, whatever. Second of all, if we're going to do any work, it needs to be done hidden. Third of all, who and what am I going to use to do this? Because I need spiritual powers and beings on top of just the humans. Well, let's think, ladies and gentlemen, after the floods of Noah, and God wiped out everything, but he said he wiped out people just say that he wiped out everything, but that's not what the Bible says. He says everything that breathes through its nostrils. So I believe, listen, if you want to get to see how we got to this and how this whole theory developed, I have a whole playlist about Noah. And basically, I believe that whatever creatures were left over, now I don't just believe humans, I believe, based on what I've seen from reading the Bible, also from reading the Book of Enoch, which the Book of Enoch is not a Bible book, but it is a historical text of a Bible character that is both mentioned in the Bible and the book is also referenced. So, and I do believe that's what God does. I think sometimes he mentions people and or other books, just like how in the books of Chronicles and Kings it says, and if you want to know more about what happened to the Chronicles of the Kings, go look to the books of the Chronicles of the Kings. Like, they're historical texts. They're just not part of the Bible. Anyway, so during the times of Enoch, anyways, basically, the thing about the Nephilim is that they started to just, whatever was degenerate, they started to do. So my understanding is that, and again, I say do your own research for yourself. My understanding is that they just started to do anything with anything, kind of like how the world is today. That's why I really think it's really interesting how things circle back, right? So they would be devouring each other, eating each other. Everybody was like, sleeping around with each other. There was degenerate behavior. They were forming new types of things. I believe this is the first time we ever saw things like these chimeric type of things. All this stuff that we see in make-believe, I believe that's history. I believe they changed the name from history in order to hide the truth in plain sight. So when you watch all this stuff, you think, oh, that was a cute little movie, that was a cute whatever, not realizing that this is real life stuff that real life happened. Yeah, listen, God has created everything and anything. He made us in his image, and he told us that we have the opportunity to create ourselves. So technically, if we were as perfect as God, we would be able to create as well as anything at all. Anything at all. And actually, for the first time, I never really thought about this. There's a section in the Bible. It's after, so this is in Revelations 21 to 22, and it's now the marriage of heaven and earth. And in there, it talks about, obviously, us being reunited with Christ, finally, yada, yada, a new garden, a new Jerusalem, a new humanity. And it also talks about, this new opportunity to kind of create like what's never been seen before. I believe that God's intention, one of the reasons why he did make us intelligent, and he did make us critical thinkers, he did make us creative, he did make us scientists, he did make us, whatever's, is because he wanted us to be able to also enjoy what he enjoyed doing. He enjoyed creating this world and creating everything around us. And it's almost like we're living in the inspiration, and for us to then go off and, create as well through the power that he has given us. All to say, I do believe that there were these different types of creatures, and I believe some of them obviously would have also been able to exist in the sea. I do not believe things like the Loch Ness Monster or the Kraken or the what is it called, the Megalodon, or all of these things. I don't believe they're fake. Mermaids, I don't believe they're fake. I believe they're all real. And I believe they're all real in here and now. In fact, as I've said to you guys before, you can literally search on YouTube. There is a video of mermaids. And they don't look like the way that they show you in Disney, because that's what always happens. The devil always shows you something. He makes it look like better than what it is for you, right? It's like it makes it look like he makes it look cute and approachable, right? That's why so much of it goes through kids' TV programs, because they kidify it. But then when you do the deep dive of the original story, it's always heinous, right? So I believe that all those things are there, and I believe they're all existing, because here's a few things that I have to state first and foremost. And this leads into the underground tunnels as well, because I believe that it was these creatures that either now or in the past built these tunnels. Because think about it like this, you guys. First things first, there was a civilization that existed before this cataclysm, let's say, if we're not going to call it Noah's flood, that existed. And then the sea level rose 400 feet. So that means if we go down, there were buildings, there were whatever was happening at the time that were there, that were on the earth, that people were living in, and people were doing things in, and would have built infrastructures in, that would have been 400 feet below where our current sea level is. So that's stage one. Stage two is also the fact that I said whatever would have been in the water and whatever could live in the water that was there then can be there now still, right? And I do believe that's why when we see some of these creatures and they look so big, these so-called make-believe creatures, they're so big because they've been here for a long time, and they've had a long time to grow. You know what I'm saying? Out there in the seas. Also, I believe that it's obvious to everybody, even though people still try to ignore it anyway, but we all know deep down, don't we, that it's clear that it had to have been these types of creatures that built things like the pyramids and all those different types of things that haven't been able to be explained. And of course, all of those structures as well that were built, that we're referring to, inside of them, if you look at the hieroglyphs, this is around the whole entire world. There's different names for different ones in different places, even in places in Africa. These models, even if you look at old places where from the Native Americans, the Aboriginals, the all sorts of cultures, basically, even in a lot of East Asian cultures, I'm thinking of the ones that I know off the top of my head. If you look at the diagrams, first of all, they all look the same around the world. They all look the same. It's all like same text, different font, maybe slightly different coloring, maybe slightly different technique of drawing, but the things look the same, number one. Number two, there's a lot of mixtures of things, like something with a horse head and this body. This is also what I believe the scientists are working on. This is what I'm saying. It all ties in all together. The entertainment industry is pushing this to us as if it's all a lie. and whatever. Historically, on a spiritual perspective, archaeologically and otherwise, it makes sense that this could have existed because this is what the people depicted that were there then. And again, the question always becomes, does art imitate life or life imitate art? And I believe art imitates life. I believe people were drawing and hieroglyphing and whatever, the things that they actually physically saw. And again, ironically, whether that was true or not, 12,400 years later, the modern day scientists of today are trying to create the exact same things using our modern technologies and sciences to create, these beings to either increase our abilities, and especially in China, they're doing that with the Chinese army. That's why I'm saying we really need to figure ourselves out, because I know that he's over there. They are using these technologies to make the men stronger, faster, taller, obviously, because, so isn't it funny that it all connects together and it's all the same? It's almost as if us as humans just consistently make the same mistake. And the reason is quite simple. It's something that was literally written on the board, on the wall in my history teacher's lesson. Those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. So what better way for the enemy to get us to repeat the mistakes of the past than to get us to do the same nonsense all over again? Make us forget the history. So run with me with all of this, right? So that's what I'm trying to pitch to you here. So I believe that there's these creatures. I believe they're working alongside humans knowingly. Let me tell you a few things of why I believe that. First things first, when I was growing up, my family is part of my family is from Zimbabwe, right? And people think it's a landlocked country, but it's not actually, really. It is landlocked as far as if you look at it. But if you actually look at it on the map with all the rivers showing, it's almost like the rivers are like veins running through the entire country. And I always remember growing up, my parents saying to me, they build banks on top of water, on top of places where there's water, because of the water spirits, so that they can get the water, they can get the powers or whatever from the water spirits, right? I remember I used to think, whatever. But now as an adult, especially knowing that, again, historically, even just the practice of, so this you guys are for, throwing money into the well, throwing money into wherever, that's a practice of sacrificing, of paying money, of making an offering to the spirits of the waters, right? That is a thing, okay, that people, would do, that you would do this thing where you try to engage with the spirits in the waters. After all was said and done in this whole situation that took place 12,400 years ago, and the people that remained dealt with the situation, again, there are stories all over the world of these hieroglyphs of these peoples that came out from the waters, that came with technology. Now, that is true of exactly what the Bible said about the Watcher Angels. So the Watcher Angels each had their own technologies that they then swapped with the humans in order for to use the humans' vessels. And I believe it's the same story then as it is right now. I believe that the things that are inside the waters, whatever the heck that those are, the hidden army, the hidden society that's happening in there. And again, the entertainment industry is telling you, why all of a sudden have we decided to have Ariel again? Why all of a sudden have we decided to have, in the Black Panther movie, there was an underwater tribe. They're telling you this stuff in front of your face, Atlantis. They're telling you this stuff in front of your face, because the reason for that is, when all is said and done on Judgment Day, you will not be able to say to God, oh God, I never heard about this. And then, because he'll say, well, you did, because he showed you what he was doing. And then you'll say, but that was make-believe. And he's like, did you research to see if that was make-believe? Or did you just go with whatever anybody tells you? Do we just go with what anybody tells us anymore? And that's the problem with the school system. That's what they taught you to do. So just go with what anybody tells you. And if it doesn't feel right? And that's the problem I realized teaching. It's so annoying when I'm teaching people maths and they know the right answer, but they give the wrong answer because the right answer felt wrong. I'm like, my friend, this is maths. You know what I'm saying? Do you get where I'm coming from? So I believe they were working in cahoots. That's why I believe there's these, and I believe that a part of maybe their belief of how they're going to exist forever is maybe if they can turn themselves into some chimeric kind of creature. And also hence why I'm believing in some of these things that I do believe in some of these things people say, like about the royal family potentially being reptilians and all this stuff and whatever, because how are they going to get themselves to a position where they can exist in the waters say if the Lord decided to send a flood again now, albeit he said he wouldn't, and he sealed that off with the rainbow, which the devil's gone and thrown right back in his freaking face, right? Which I just think is heinous. Like if you want to really truly understand our opponent and how heinous he is, you should stew on that thought for about half an hour one day. Be out in nature or somewhere and think, if God really, 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 really sent the did a flood and said, my promise to you is that I'll never do it again, and he used the rainbow as a symbol of his promise, and now it's a symbol that's being used as the banner for the very types of things that were the reason he sent the flood in the first place. Think about just what kind of person you have to be as Satan to make such a move like that. That's what I'm trying to say here. So yes, I believe they're all working together. I believe that the powers that be underneath there in that society, that's why I believe they're doing these underground tunnels, because in these underground tunnels, not only can they be doing these heinous things like, hurting the children, also the scientists can be doing their unethical practices, also they can be preparing their bunkers because they think that things are coming and they want to be prepared. They also plan to do heinous things, I believe, to us. I believe there's going to come a time where there's going to be, the Bible talks about fake signs and wonders. I can't believe I haven't even got to this point yet, right? The Bible talks about fake signs and wonders, and the enemy's going to try and make it look like that this is God doing something when actually it's him. And so I think when they do these fake signs and wonders, which I believe are just going to be excuses for mass killing and mass torture, which I don't know what that's going to look like. I believe that they're preparing themselves to be in these underground tunnels. I believe some people are preparing themselves to be in outer space so that when these fake signs and wonders come along, they have somewhere to go. So once again, the same story that always was, that always is, that always will be, is the serpent approaches Adam and Eve. Hey, if you eat from this, here's where you'll gain knowledge, right? Boom. Eat from this tree, right? Even, we won't go there for now. We have these creatures, the Watchers. When it gets to Noah, what do they bring? What do they each have? Knowledge that they can offer in exchange for what? Your body, you, in exchange for you, and you exchange for the knowledge. Again, it doesn't change. Then afterwards, historically, around the whole world, they are showing signs that, again, these some kind of sea creature or sea human or sea something, not quite one thing, some kind of person, sea combination, whatever, arisen from the waters with information of how to civilize and knowledge. And the trick about this is these creatures, right, because they are spiritual in nature and God created them to work alongside us and for him and also alongside us, is that they do have technologies we don't know. So it's easy for us to fall for the trap of like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing as Adam and Eve. We can leave God out of the equation. And that's the heinous thing for me, because I'm like, all God wants from me is a relationship. You mean to tell me that you're so obsessed with removing God from the equation that it's like, I would rather literally like go off over there with some demonic creatures than have to submit. That's why I'm saying we as humans, our nature is insane. So we want the knowledge. So this is where these people are getting the knowledge. They've also been referred to, these creatures. These creatures that I believe are in the waters, these spirits. It's even known in a lot of cultures, in a lot of places. Like I know, for example, these spirits that come from, the waters are some of the most demonic and the most violent. And that's how I know, because I've dealt with some myself, because they've existed for a long time. And so they've got a lot of skin in the game. And they know exactly what they're doing. And a lot of them are attached to a lot of generational curses, let me tell you, because they've been here for a long time. Longer than, they've been here for a long time. So that's what I believe is going on in terms of the waters on that standpoint. Also, from a worldly standpoint, it's very well known that around the world, there are a lot of hidden submarines. right? So like China's known to have like so many submarines, like and obviously we had that incident recently where there was a boat that I think sunk in the UK or something, or somewhere, and then the United States kind of had to admit, because they were feeling guilty because people they were there and they saw what happened and they could obviously do something, and then they kind of had to be like, yeah, so we might have had a sub. We might have had a sub, and the reason why I'm mentioning this to you guys is because for so many reasons, but one of them being that the hiddenness of it, the hiddenness, both both the governments, as I said, they're all working together. Do you think these people in these subs around the world, do you think they don't all know what's down there? So they know what's down there. They know about what's going on in all of this. They'll be able to see these supposed tunnels that go between, because Ali Castle, like I said, actually physically traveled between these tunnels between like the United Kingdom and the United States. What do these tunnels even look like? Who built them? And I believe again, it's these underwater creatures. Because I asked, the reason why I even got to this question, this whole series really, is my question I had asked myself, or I'd asked the Lord really, but was, who built these tunnels? Like when I was thinking about them being built from the US to the UK, and I believe that they're vast worldwide, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised. I was thinking, who's even building these tunnels? And then I realized, yes. We have a whole community probably living down there, and you might wonder, why would they not resurface? How are they being so good? Well, first of all, they have their own whole society just like we do. The same reason why we only go into the water, into the ocean for the fun of it, but we don't have to go in, do we? Second of all, they're spiritual beings, so they have intuitions and they have an upper hand on a spiritual basis, henceforth why the Holy Spirit is so freaking important. Also, they have to stay hidden because, as I said, our opponent, realized his mistake. That when we know of anything supernatural, anything spiritual, it always opens the door to bring us back to God. It will always give us the opportunity to bring us back to God. So he has to stop that from ever happening. And henceforth, he does all these things. Do we see how that works? And henceforth, he does all these things to make sure that there's no way we can ever find out. And at the same time, for those who are under his wing, they can participate, and it's in their best interest for you not to know. Why do you think the government's always like, such as classified, such as classified, this is a classified document. We mean this is a classified document. This is a classified document. You know what I mean? Like, so that there's, we would tell you, but for the safety of the country, we would tell you, of course, if we were able to tell the British public, we would. But unfortunately, it's just come to our attention that this might exacerbate the situation, and therefore we must keep everything completely to ourselves, and we must make sure that the safety of the United Kingdom, the safety of the British public is of our number one priority, and therefore we must keep these documents classified, right? Because otherwise we don't know how that might affect the great British public. Also, we know that our enemies are listening to us, and therefore we must be so very careful to keep all this to ourselves. We can't really tell y'all what's going on Area 51 because we're just working on some things, and you know what I'm saying? Isn't it interesting how they have all these classifieds? I am really interested to see what comes out of the out when Donald Trump becomes president. By the way, I'm so curious to see if he does release anything. That would be interesting, because it won't be anything that will surprise me, right? But I mean, for the sake of people who are still struggling to believe the information and the truth that is very clearly in front of your face. Throughout all of history, from the very beginning, in all areas of history, in all cultures, everyone, for the majority of history, believed in supernatural things and spiritual things. This development of us not believing that is something that came recently as a result of the most recent batch of children of Satan who realize that they have the upper hand when we just don't know anyway. Instead of what it used to be like, where it'd be like everybody had their own gods and we all acknowledge that everybody has a god. The problem with that is that that means that the one true living God is still an option. So rather than have that scenario, let's hide everything where no one can see underneath the ground and in the ocean. And let's just call all supernatural and spiritual make-believe. Are you guys seeing what I'm saying? So with this stuff to do with the waters, I feel like if we're saying that all of this was possible, or for like whatever could have been happening for all these thousands and thousands of years under there, I have no idea what's going on in there. What I can tell you is that all over the world, throughout history, there were claims of these beings that came out from the seas with technologies in like every single place in the world to tell us and to help us to shape into the civilization we have today. And the thing that gets me about that is that the civilization we have today is the first civilization, I believe, where, especially in the West here, where there is no belief in the supernatural. Only a small group of people believe in the supernatural. It's the small group of people who get to know Jesus Christ for real and trust in his words and actually trust it. And it's the small group of people trying to pull the strings of the rest of you in the world for their game. Because even the other countries of the world, the way that the West treats other countries is actually crazy. Like when COVID came and India basically became a freaking vaccine factory, even though their quality of life was horrible, even though their quality of life reduced and conditions were insanely bad. We consume so many different things over here and we build all these businesses. And of course, what do? We outsource to places where there's kids working in sweatshops in other countries. We're flying in produce and what you name it from all the other countries to suit ourselves and to suit our lifestyles. Meanwhile, people are suffering. You're complaining about not being able to pay for a price of eggs and someone's grateful that they got a plate of rice for the first time in 4 days. We're mindfully throwing away things into our bins, into our trashes and whatnot and what have you. Meanwhile, your people out there are having to deal with our trash showing up in their oceans or being dumped in their countries. Your leaders know exactly what they're doing and they're that level of selfish. Everything and everyone is just a pawn in the game to them. You are just a factory worker of the losing team to them. The rest of the world is just to be used and abused in whatever way that they possibly can. Exactly. And so that's what I'm trying to say with all of this, you guys, about like understanding your opponent. The opponent is hitting us at every single angle. In the ocean, underground, on the ground, outer space we're working on. I have theories about outer space that I'm not completely finished with. I think I'll do one more video for this series in the next video. And in that video, I'm going to tie this all together to do with religion. I think. Am I? Hold on, let me think about it for a second. Yeah, we are. We're going to talk about the importance of a relationship over a religion in the game of life, as per everything that I have said, because I've said quite a lot of things and I've covered quite a lot of different areas. And I hope that you guys can see that whatever you think of what was going on in the world and whatever you think is the point of what these people are trying to do is not to just destroy you, not to just stay rich. There's a larger viewpoint that's happening because the enemy knows where he's going. The enemy knows where he's going. Actually, I'll include that part as well. We'll do why. We'll do the why, and we'll also do like the why they are so dedicated to this. What is it that we're preparing? The opponent is preparing for, and the importance of a relationship. That's how we'll round it off. Because the why and the vastness of this whole organization, as you can see, everything is all linked in together. We're just all participating and helping grow these things. You know, even if you feel like, that's why it's not even about jobs. Even if you have a business, listen, if you're running it through these sites and using the sites that they have and the manufacturers that they create, that they run and all of that, it's still all the same. They're still all making money. They're still using their money to prepare to for whatever's to come, the fake signs and wonders. But yeah, we'll talk about more in part 8, I believe it will be. So come to part 8. We'll do fake signs, um, importance of relationship, and the why. Why is our opponent doing all of this? So stay tuned, guys. This has been so long. If you've made it this far through, you are a real one. Anyways, you guys, love you guys all. If life is a game, it's pay to win. God bless you. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.